to Oddball. I'm Charlotte Wilder. That's Amin Al Hassan. Ready for work. Look at it. He's got that pen out. Oddball is presented by DraftKings. Stay tuned because you will hear more about DraftKings Pick 6 and all it has to offer throughout the show. DraftKings, the crown is yours.
Hell yeah.
Amin, taking notes. Did you take some notes last night? You were at the game. You were at Game 3. Talk to me, Goose. What was the mood? What were the vibes?
First of all, I'm Maverick. You're Goose. Let's not forget that.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
Right there, American Airlines Arena. Outside, energy was electric. It was great. People everywhere. Walked inside the building. The crowd was great to start. We talked about this, Charlotte, in Boston. We wondered, would there be Celtics fans at these Dallas games? And I said, of course there will be. There are Celtics fans everywhere because they just spread like roaches. And I was surprised that there really weren't that many. I believe to be a couple of sections that were family, friends / employees or something. But for the most part, it was a rabid Dallas Mavericks fan base. And they get off to the great start. And we get to a timeout. And during the timeout, we see the trophy. And then it zooms out a little bit. You see who's holding the trophy. It's our friend JJ Barea. And then it zooms out a little bit more.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and he's in the suite. And it's like, oh, look who's also in the suite. Dirk Nowitzki, Caron Butler, Jason Terry, Sean Marion, Brian Cardinal. It's the 2011 champs. And then they put the banner up on the video board. And people were going nuts. And I was like, wow, this is Dallas's night. And by the end of the first quarter, they had farted it all away.
Yeah, I mean, look, when they came out, it felt like Dallas's night. They were just destroying the Celtics, and I was like, oh, God, okay, does Porzingis make that big of a difference? I thought he didn't. I don't know. Because it was the Kyrie game we were waiting for. I mean, like, he was getting those floaters that he hasn't been getting. And then the Celtics came back and took the 21-point lead, and it was a 1-point game after the first quarter. So there's obviously a lot more. The Celtics went up big run in the third quarter and then managed to choke that away, but then came back. I mean,
I would have given
Dallas
any amount of money to transport myself to your living room just to watch you during that huge run. It was Dude, marvelous.
I'm not gonna lie, I was squirming. Squirming.
Here's the funny thing: the Celtics finally won a game where Jason Tatum shot better than 40%. Well, I should say finally. They win those games too. It's just they're undefeated when he shoots under 40%. He had 31, 8, and 5. How did you feel watching Tatum play?
I felt like this was a huge moment in the narrative of the Celtics core of this team. I feel like the Celtics showed up. They did what they haven't done in the past, which is answer the call and perform at the level that they know they can. They didn't choke. And even when they started to blow that lead, like, sure, they might have gotten rattled, but they didn't get rattled. Like they pulled it out. They made it work. They answered, I think, a lot of the criticisms. Like Tatum shot well. Brown played incredibly well. So it was nice to see just from I think a lot of people have been saying like it's a cakewalk, and we'll get to some of that later. But the Celtics played very well in this game without Porzingis. So my question to you, Amin, is have the finals ended?
Yeah, I mean, like, the record is what it is. 0-156, 3-0 leads in NBA playoff history. It's never happened. It's happened a bunch of times in hockey. It's happened once in baseball. I can't remember which baseball team did it, though. Some losers from some other place that had like 100 years.
Some plumbers from like the 1930s.
Yeah, something like that. But like there's a reason. And by the way, if we're going to talk about coming back from a 3-0 lead, like it would be a team that has played well in those 3 games that they lost, right? Like there's no game out of these 3 games where I felt like, the Mavs deserve to win this one. They've done it to themselves. Yeah. Even if they had come back last night and won, they did not play a good game. And it comes back to Luka and Kyrie having to do everything, and that supporting cast really not carrying its weight. And so last night, Luka having a great game. He starts to run out of gas because he's been carrying a great load. Him and Kyrie shot 21 of 44 in the first 3 quarters. They combined for 3 of 11 in the fourth quarter. The supporting cast scored 19 points in the first 3 quarters of basketball. They scored 18 in the fourth quarter. So when you get to the fourth quarter, Luka's tired. He's trying to guard. He's fouling. He fouls it out with over 4 minutes left in the game. And here's what he had to say about the foul calls.
Tim McMahon, ESPN. Luka, what did you think of the whistles that went against you in the fourth quarter?
I mean, I don't know. We couldn't play physical, so I don't know. I don't want to say nothing, but six foul in the NBA Finals, where basically I'm like this. Come on, man. Better than that.
So, I mean, we're going to get to Luca in a second. I just want to address, he sort of put this narrative out there. I saw a lot of basketball, a lot of people on the internet, that this narrative, I feel like, sort of started to take off about like, oh, it's a ticky-tack foul, like you're ruining the product by having a star foul out in the fourth quarter. And I think in this instance, like, yes, refs get things wrong sometimes. This wasn't a ticky-tack foul. This was a 50-50 foul, and it didn't go Luka's way. And so I think it's lazy to blame the referees in this case. I think it's lazy to say like, oh, Adam Silver has put rules in place that are ruining the product. Like, I keep seeing people make marketing arguments about basketball stuff. Like when I said that Caitlin Clark can grow into Team USA, there are so many people in my mentions and comments on Instagram, a lot of dudes yelling at me being like, do you not care about making money or the ratings of the W or of Team USA? But when did you all become marketing execs? Yeah. Why is that the thing you care? Why do you care about making money for these massive corporations right now? Like, yes, stars are good. I was bummed that Luka fouled out. But if we start making decisions based on like marketing, we undercut what makes the product work, which is the rules and the processes that players follow that don't change depending on how much attention you bring. And it removes accountability and calls into question the integrity of the game if you start doing that and the bottom falls out.
The irony, Charlotte, is in the 90s and the 2000s, people would complain that the league was making marketing decisions, right? Oh, like they want the Lakers in the finals. David Stern has the famous quote. They ask him, is Lakers Celtics the dream finals matchup? And he says, no, the dream finals matchup from a business standpoint is Lakers versus Lakers. Like insinuating basically, if we get really ridiculous with this, and this is all about marketing. And now it's like the opposite. We're getting basketball and people are like, what about the marketing? It's so weird. You're angry about that. I'll tell you what I'm angry about. This is per Tim Bontemps of ESPN. After the game, Luka he flashed the money sign at the referee Kevin Scott after fouling out. And this has been a season-long thing for me, that I think the NBA is not hard enough on players and people who question the integrity of the game. This goes to Coach Darko in Toronto. It goes to Rudy Gobert in the regular season. It goes to who else was in the postseason? I'm trying to remember. Jamal Murray. Oh yeah, when he threw the heat pack out there, and like you cannot allow these people, whether they're players or coaches or even front office people, anyone affiliated with an NBA team, you make money off of this thing. You get a salary. You cannot question the integrity of this game. You can't, because you're frustrated, like you said, about a 50-50 call. Not a blatant no call, a 50-50 call. It could have gone either way. And, to me, it's just, I'm waiting for Joe Dumars, for Adam Silver, Mark Tatum, whoever, to put the foot down on this. And maybe that's a conversation that happens in the offseason with the Players Association and the Coaches Association. But it has to happen. Enough. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Brian Windhorst is another thing a lot of people are talking about because he went pretty hard on Luka and saying he needs to play. He's been playing horrible defense. He needs to take accountability. He's, the refs. And a lot of people are sort of laughing about how hard Windhorst went. I think the reason that I believed what Windhorst was saying, because there was reporting in there. Nobody is talking about this. He reported that the Dallas Mavericks and a lot of people in Luka's personal life are frustrated with Luka because he will not change his behavior. He will not change how he talks to the ref, which maybe the call would have gone his way if he had a better track record of not. He did not get back on defense because he was complaining about a call. Windhorst said they have begged him, they have talked to him, they have pleaded with him. He is costing his team. ... Nobody with the Mavericks or in his life has gotten through to him. And that's huge news. That's actual news. That's way more important than anything else to come from that hit, I thought.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think people glom on to the vitriol, the hot take. Like, oh, he really took him to task. But the reality is, as you said, in there, he's telling you something that has not been said out loud, which is even Lucas Circle is like, come on, dude, you got to get this together. And we'll talk about that in just a second. about the maturity of Luka Doncic, because I was having a conversation last night with one of the reporters who covers the NBA for an international outlet, and we were talking about why Vlade Divac, who was at the time the general manager of the Sacramento Kings, passed on Luka. And the reporting is that because Vlade knows Luka's dad, and he thought Luka and the dad were a little bit too much. Like, just you can't, especially Luka, you can't tell him anything. Now, Vlade got ridiculed, rightly so. You don't pass up on talent on that like that, and you definitely don't pass it up for Marvin Bagley, right? So. I don't think that should change. Hindsight is still 1,000% they did the wrong thing. But the idea that, hey, he might have been right about that. Wrong on not taking Luka, but right on that assessment that he's a lot. And that quote from Windhorst sounds like a lot. Sounds like someone that you can't bargain with, you can't convince. And so as we talk about Luka, and a lot of people are blaming Luka for the loss last night because of his foul situation. But the reality is he's not in control of everything, Charlotte. And so I think we should make it real simple and give people two buckets. The things that Luka can control and the things that Luka cannot control. And there we are on a sandy beach somewhere, probably Cancun, because that's where Luka's going after this.
Or Galveston, if you're Chuck.
You're not. They're not going to Galveston.
Yeah, you're not. They're not going to Galveston.
So,
my bad. Yes, this is a new segment called Two Buckets. I mean, take it away.
All right. So, the maturity that we talked about, right? You characterized his sixth foul as a 50-50 foul, 50-50 call. I agree with you there. When you spend your entire game, nay, your entire career, bitching out referees every which way, guess what happens when the 50-50 call comes up? It could go this way, it could go that way. It will not go your way. Ain't no marketing there. Mark Davis is gonna be like, look, could be, couldn't be. You know what? Benefits out. I think you found him. And that's the thing. There's a way to do this, to criticize refs. There's an art to it, right? And it starts before the camera's on or the ball is tipped. It starts when you build a relationship with these guys. You're talking to them. You're getting to know them as people, as humans, right? And when you do communicate with them during the game, some of them have to be not a whiny tirade. Some of them have to be just, hey man, like, did you see him? Like, you got to talk regular. And if you look at the people who work referees well, they all do that. Now, sometimes they'll bitch them out. Tensions, stakes are high, whatever. But it cannot be just one long nag session from beginning to end.
Yeah, totally agree, Amin. I think another thing that Luka can control is how he plays defense. Obviously, look, the Celtics were going at him really hard because he does not play defense very well, and everybody knows that. I think also you can say the rest of the team didn't help him so as much as they should have, so there's a little bit of a gray area there, and we'll get to that in terms of what he can't control. But Luka is in charge of how fast he runs, how well he runs, and how quickly he gets back there. And if he's complaining about a call, I mean, he's not going to get back there.
So so it's all interconnected, right? It's all interconnected with, should he be playing better defense? Well, he'll say, well, it's hard when I have to do everything offensively, which he does. And he's right. His teammates did not give him a lot of support outside of Kyrie Irving through the first 3 quarters of that game. And so you're tired, and like you said, they're targeting you. So it's not even like you get a break at any point. It's constant, and it's hard, right? But other side of that coin is, hey, you know what would work if you were in better condition? You've been in better shape. Well, I know you're never going to be Russell Westbrook athletically or John Morant athletically. I know you can have better stamina. I know you can have better conditioning. And that is something that he controls. You can, just like we said, you can't control what the refs call or don't call. You can control how you interact with them. And then finally, like, I think when you come to the point of what the Mavs are doing out there, this is a big one. I get it. This is their strategy. This is their offense. This is how they've done all year long. But I hope this experience has taught Dallas we cannot ride this ISO train to a title. At some point, you're going to run into a team that's just too good for you to just ISO them to death. And at some point, Luka has to make the same decision that Kobe Bryant made, that Michael Jordan made, and so many other great players in the past, where it's like, I got to relinquish some of this control in order to become greater as a player and as a team.
Yeah. And I think, this is something we've talked about this whole series now, this whole finals, is what adjustments can they make? And the answer is really none, because they have not been built to make those adjustments, and they were just going to ride this train as far as it could get them. And it turns out it's not getting them very far. But we have to move on from the buckets, because you asked a question in the press conference. You asked Jason Kidd a question. Can we? Well, let's roll it. Let's see.
Amin El-Hassan, Meadowlark Media. Coach, what was there any discussion about Luka's fifth foul? I'm challenging that when Jaylen Brown hooked, and if not, why not?
Maybe we should have challenged all of them. You're going to ask that question about challenging the fifth foul. Why wouldn't we challenge them all?
Well, just it seemed because Brown hooked him, it looked like there was a hook there, and
yeah, looks can be deceiving.
We're going to have a real quick post-game presser for the post-game presser.
Okay.
Charlotte Wilder, Meadowlark Media. Do you have trouble saying the Meadowlark Media there in that?
Yeah,
in that
you know, I don't say it out loud a whole lot.
Yeah.
And right when I'm about to start talking, I thought, should I say DraftKings Network? No, Meadowlark Media. That's what's on my credential. I'll say Meadowlark Media. So this is what's going through my head. The other part is, when people are like, you're stumbling over your words, it's because I'm used to speaking conversationally. I don't typically ask on the record questions. And an on the record question cannot be leading. So I wanted to give him the space to interpret it how any which way. So when I said Brown hooked him, I immediately said, no, I can't say he hooked him. I have to say it looks like he hooked him. So all of those things are kind of running through my head. I'm trying to say it in the professional reporter fashion. But Charlotte, as I always like to say, I'm not a reporter. People say, such a biased journalist. I'm not a journalist. I'm not biased either, but I'm not a journalist. I'm a guy who worked in basketball for 10 years and has covered the game from that standpoint.
Yeah. Okay. Good answer. Another question over here. Yes. Yes. Charlotte Wilder, Meadowlark Media. I completely understand what you're saying about asking a question. Also, I think people underestimate how nerve-wracking that moment can be. Thoughts on Kidd's orneriness in answering your question?
Yeah. I thought it was odd because it was a specific question about a specific thing that happened. So you could challenge every foul. Well, obviously, one, you can't. Two, even if you could, like the situation doesn't call for it. But three, most importantly, he has 4 fouls. There is something that happens on that play that kind of looks like there was contact in both ways. Mm-hmm. I just asked, was there a discussion? His answer pretty much should have been just no. There was no discussion. Why not? Yeah. Because, then are you going to challenge everybody? But he didn't say no. I kind of felt like he felt a certain kind of way about it. And it's probably because the 6th foul, it didn't look like they wanted to challenge, and Luka screamed at the bench to call for the challenge. So I was surprised by his answer also because Kyrie came up later, and this is what he had to say.
It's a tough game, and it was a tough call. We could have probably done a little bit something different on this 5th foul, just to give us a little bit more of a grace period to set our defense and get them on a matchup. But hindsight's 20/20.
Huh? Sounds an awful lot like what you asked Jason Kidd.
Yeah, and it is what it is. Like, I get it. I don't want to answer questions when I'm having a bad day at work, so I'm not gonna hold it against Coach Kidd. But I did think it was. I didn't think it was a dumb question, which is what he was trying to make it feel like. And I was like, okay, you can not like it, but you can't make it seem like it was dumb. But the funny thing is, towards the end of the game, right when Luka was that last foul he got, I actually got close to the court, Charlotte, and I recorded what exactly he said to Mark Davis. It was this.
Oh my God.
Шоколад, я тоже, может, хочу шоколад, блин. Задумала, блин. Мне тоже шоколад. Я тоже хочу шоколад.
Welcome back to Oddball. I mean, yesterday we remembered Jerry West, the NBA legend who passed away, and a lot of other people have been remembering him too. But we also we took a deep dive on some of Jerry West's best quotes because yes, he was an amazing man. He also had some great pieces of advice, and we are going to decide which player in the NBA could benefit from each of these. So, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. The first one is, you can't get much done in life if you only work on the days you feel good. Who needs to hear that?
Ooh, there's a lot of names there. I guess the name that jumps to mind, and I know he's going to feel like we pile on him a lot, but it's Ben Simmons. You know, Ben Simmons, obviously, when you're hurt. But also, when he wasn't hurt, he didn't want to work on certain parts of his game. And I think, you know, that's a trap that a lot of NBA players fall into. I should be clear in that they like to work on the things that they're already good at because you get the instant reward of like, I'm seeing myself get better. Whereas the things you're not good at, it takes a longer time to see that return. So I think
Totally.
I'll go with Ben Simmons there. Yeah. All right.
You know who doesn't need to hear that is any of the players currently playing for Coach Tom Thibodeau. Okay.
All right. I don't know why we have to give them a shout out. All right. The second quote is, the word dog comes up a lot. Well, I was a wolf, okay? I used to eat dogs. Who you got?
So, Anthony Edwards, right? Because he did a whole big thing about how he was a dog, but then the Wolves lost.
Yep.
So maybe he needs to be more of a wolf.
Right.
Pretty
Absolutely.
simple.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Next. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Sorry.
Advice number 3. The best players always want to be told the truth, which, I just want to say before we match this, I love this. I absolutely love this quote. I think that people who are confident or willing to work on being better at something are much more open to hearing the truth than people who are not. So
absolutely.
Who needs to hear this?
Well, we just got done in the last segment talking about Luka Doncic with the family or the circle around him and the team trying to convince him you need to ease up on the whole ref thing. So I think Luka is definitely a guy who fits that bill. But there's a bunch of other guys I could name in there. I would say Trae Young is another guy who probably doesn't want to hear the truth. I would say LaMelo Ball is another guy who may not want to hear the truth. Anywhere where you got a franchise player who has the run of the roost and doesn't accept kind of constructive criticism, I think those are the guys that probably need to hear that one.
Okay. Love it.
All right. Number 4. You need to possess more than a little nastiness to play basketball at the highest level. Little nastiness.
I think, the guy who needs to hear this is Draymond Green. Like, he's just got to be a little tougher out there, a little. Yeah,
for sure. I've always thought he was just too much of a pushover.
Draymond famously soft. No, just kidding. I can't think of it. Who comes to mind for you?
Ooh, there's a couple of guys. And they're really good players. I think he's taking steps toward this, but Bam Adebayo is a guy who, in the past, who kind of like wanted more, like wants you to be the dominant guy that we know you can be. Another name I would throw out there, Tyrese Halliburton. Again, it's
oh yeah,
it's friendly.
The Pacers,
it's nice.
A lot of nice guys.
A lot of nice guys. Yeah. Sometimes you need to be a dick out there, and not just when you're up 20.
Right.
And let me think. There's one more player I was thinking of who fits that bill as well. Maybe Zion. Yeah.
I like that. Zion. All right. The last one. Don't let talent get in the way of team performance. Great players do what's outstanding for the team, not what makes them stand out. You know who I think did hear this?
Mm-hmm.
I think the Boston Celtics heard this. I think Jason Tatum heard this and took that advice.
I'll give you another guy who heard it and took that advice. Karl Anthony Towns. Because he was a guy that was out for his own stuff, and now he's outstanding for the team.
Well, love it. Little sage advice on this Thursday.
Thanks, Logo.
All right. Goodbye, Oddballs. See you tomorrow.